Hello, my name is Reverend Dr. May Elise Cannon. Today is Thursday, September 19th. Today is day 349 since October 7th. This morning I gave a 30-minute update on what's happened in the past week, and tonight I'll give you an update on what's happened in the last 24 hours. A reminder that yesterday there was a historic resolution that passed at the UN General Assembly. The resolution passed 124 to 14, demanding that Israel end its unlawful presence in the occupied Palestinian territories within the next year. Over the next 12 months, the resolution, it's non-binding, said that Israel should withdraw its military forces, halt the expansion of settlements, evacuate all settlers, and demolish parts of the separation wall that are in the occupied West Bank. The United States voted against the UN resolution demanding that Israel withdraw from the occupied Palestinian territories, and the U.S. ambassador to the UN, Linda Thomas-Greenfield, said the resolution is flawed. It's a flawed idea. It uses inflammatory language and undermines the prospect of a two-state solution. But in actuality, the resolution is moderate. The occupied Palestinian territories have been occupied by Israel's military since 1967 for decades, and it's against international law for an occupation to be long-term. 1967, I can't even do the math. How many decades is that? I think that's long-term. So the fact that the UN is providing 12 months for the occupation to be brought to an end is actually moderate. The UK abstained from the vote, saying because the resolution does not provide sufficient clarity to effectively advance our shared aim of peace, premised on a negotiated two-state solution. In Gaza, there's reportedly a minimum number of 41,272 people killed, Palestinians, and those injured is a minimum of 95,551 as of September 18th. In the last 24 hours, the civil defense says 6 Palestinians have been killed in an Israeli attack on Gaza City after Israeli bombardment left at least 28 dead across the entire Gaza Strip on Thursday. Up to 36 children will be brought from Gaza to Ireland for medical treatment and care, the Irish cabinet announced yesterday. In the West Bank, 3 Palestinian militants were killed in IDF strikes near Jenin, and an Israeli military report released 2 Palestinians that were arrested earlier this week on suspicion of attacking settlers who entered a school in the West Bank village of Mu'arajat. We talked about that previously, and attacked Palestinians and solidarity activists. The settlers attacked Palestinians and solidarity activists, and Palestinians were arrested on suspicion of attacking settlers. I just wanted to make sure you caught all the actors in that scenario. That was the school where it was believed that the police and the soldiers showed up and they were friendly with the settlers. A magistrate school, again, we're talking about the West Bank, extended the detention of one of the settlers suspected on attacking Palestinians at the school until Sunday. A police representative said the suspicions against him had grown, and the 3 other suspects are expected to have their detention extended until Friday. In the occupied West Bank, at least 5 people have been killed in an Israeli raid at Kabatia. And I watched on a video today, this is reportedly based near Jenin, this Kabatia area, where soldiers threw an injured man off a rooftop outside of Jenin. The video is available also on Al Jazeera. I saw it on social media. Lord have mercy. In terms of what's happening in Lebanon, you've heard about these pagers and other mobile type devices that have been exploding the last couple of days. Israel and Hezbollah's cross-border fire has continued. People in Lebanon have been ditching electronic devices everywhere after explosions the past 2 days have killed 37 people. More than 3,000 people have been injured. So the death toll yesterday during Wednesday's walkie-talkie blasts rose to 25 people, according to the health minister, and 608 people were wounded from Wednesday's explosions. Today at around 7 a.m. or so in DC, the Post put out a world alert. Hezbollah leader says that the device attacks are an act of war against Lebanon, as Israeli warplanes were flying over Beirut. These were his first remarks, Nasrallah, the Hezbollah leader, since thousands of electronic devices exploded, saying Hezbollah suffered a major blow, but his forces would not stop attacking Israel as long as the war in Gaza continued. I just want people to hear what's being said. He's not saying we're going to annihilate the state of Israel. He's saying attacking is going to continue as long as the war in Gaza continues. The exploding pagers used to attack the country, attack thousands of people in Lebanon, were never in Hungary, a Hungarian official said. 3 intelligence officers said the Hungarian Bulgarian-based company, as well as other shell companies, were part of an Israeli front. Separately, the Japanese manufacturer of two-way radios that detonated said it was investigating allegations, but early signs suggested that the walkie-talkies were counterfeit. This was reported by Politico, Washington Post, and the New York Times. Israel says that its war focus is moving north, a tacit acknowledgement of its role in the shock attacks on Hezbollah this week. And Lebanon's foreign minister said that he fears that those attacks were an introduction to war. Iran vowed to respond to Israel after its ambassador to Lebanon was wounded in the pager explosions. I said yesterday he lost one of his eyes and its other eye was severely injured. Israel bombed southern Lebanon today and said it had foiled an Iran-backed assassination plot. Israel's security services said an Israeli businessman had been arrested last month on suspicion of plotting to assassinate Netanyahu. That was Reuters. U.S. alarmed that Israel is close to launching a ground war in Lebanon, which would be catastrophic. And we've talked about this before. This war between Israel and Hamas has been a regional war for many, many months. So we're talking about de-escalation. When you read in the news that we don't want this to escalate to a broader regional war, it already is. But the U.S. Has said that Israel is talking about a ground war in Lebanon, and that U.S. officials have said they have not seen indicators that a major offensive is imminent. But one official said Israel could order a smaller operation very quickly without any major military moves. That was the Wall Street Journal. Today, the IDF announced the death of 2 soldiers, Israeli soldiers killed in fighting in northern Israel. And many Israelis received intimidating text messages overnight into today with some links to malware. One message said, "Say goodbye to your loved ones, but don't worry, you'll hug them again in hell in a few hours." The reporter's sending was Sih Nasrallah, an apparent reference to Hezbollah's leader Hassan Nasrallah. Other messages posing as originating from Israel's home front command instructed recipients to immediately seek a bomb shelter or protected space. Hostage ceasefire conversations, a government official responsible in Israel for missing persons, Gal Hirsch, has submitted a proposal to the Biden administration for a deal with Hamas. You'll recall that there was a desire for hostage families for the U.S. to directly negotiate with Hamas and to not go through the Israeli government, which the U.S. said no to. But now the government official responsible for hostages and missing persons submitted a proposal to the Biden administration for a deal with Hamas where all hostages held in Gaza would be released in a one phase in exchange for ending the war and allowing the Hamas leader, Yahya Sinwar, and his family and thousands of operatives of his choice to leave Gaza for a third country. This is called like the exile plan. This is the idea that the war would end, Hamas would leave and go into exile. According to the proposal, the move would not be defined as surrender or exile. Listen to me, I'm calling it the exile plan, and they're saying it's not defined as exile. Just for the record, that's the definition of exile, but fine. It's not defined as exile. It would allow Hamas leaders to leave through a safe passage. Once the leaders of the organization leave Gaza, an agreed upon mechanism for the rebuilding of Gaza would begin, according to the proposal. Sources said Israel would formally adopt the plan if Hamas signals its willingness to move forward. Now, Israel adopting the plan and Netanyahu adopting the plan are two different stories, but we'll leave that for another day. Families of Israeli hostages held in Gaza met with the U.S. National Security Advisor Sullivan to discuss efforts to secure the release of 101 remaining captives. A reminder that we do not know how many of them are still alive. This was the 13th in-person meeting for Sullivan and the hostages' families. Family members of Israeli hostages protested outside of the Defense Ministry headquarters in Tel Aviv. Shea Moses, whose uncle is still held hostage, said the solution is not a war in Lebanon. The solution is signing an agreement. Secretary of State Blinken said he does not want to see any escalatory actions by any party that make a ceasefire deal even more difficult. He believes a ceasefire remains possible and necessary. This is really important because lots of news sources internationally have really not been reporting correctly on this. Forgive me, I've been having conversations with tons of people to figure out what's going on. Since yesterday, rumors have been circulating that Germany cut arms shipments to Israel. This is directly from Euronews, but I've had it confirmed by many sources. No permits from Germany have been issued since March for weapons, to go to Israel. But the German government has denied claims that it has suspended permits for arms exports to Israel, despite reports circulating that exports from Germany have stalled. So the idea that Germany has, withheld, that's withholding weapons or that there's an arms embargo, Germany is saying it's not true. So it's a very complicated, nuanced dynamic. Barron's reported early this morning, senior diplomats from the US, Britain, Germany, France, and Italy met today or are meeting today in Paris to discuss spiraling tensions in the Middle East. The meeting was supposed to take place as fears grow of an all-out war engulfing the region, with conflict raging in Gaza and the exploding pagers and other devices in Lebanon, an unprecedented attack on Hezbollah. In the US, government watchdogs are preparing to publish the results of multiple investigations analyzing the Biden administration's provision of US weapons to Israel for its campaign in Gaza, the Washington Post reported. At the same time, and we have not talked about this a lot, we talked about it early on, maybe in December, but the Center for Constitutional Rights has been involved in a lawsuit against President Biden and some other senior US officials, saying it's complicit in war crimes and genocide because of the weaponization of Israel and its involvement in the Gaza war. So I think it's really important. The Biden administration is being investigated, the war, the weapons being sent to Gaza. And at the same time, the US Defense Secretary, Lloyd Austin, discussed regional security developments with the defense minister in Israel, Gallant, reiterating the US's unwavering support for Israel in the face of threats from Iran, Hezbollah, and other regional partners, according to the Pentagon. The priority is to achieve a ceasefire and to bring the hostages home. We agree, bring the hostages home. And the priority should be to end violence, to de-escalate war, and to demilitarize. I wanted to give two final updates. These are really critical on Christians in Palestine, our partners. The Tent of Nations yesterday had a hearing, and we have the update on that hearing. They were able to present evidence about their land through a land expert and surveyor. They submitted their opinion regarding the borders based on land registration and deeds. They've had paperwork since the time of the Ottomans. The committee requested explanations and another submission within 45 days. The Land Re-Registration Committee decided that it wants to have the maps that had been previously submitted by the Tent of Nations superimposed on maps of the state in order to ensure that there are no discrepancies, disputes, or other claims related to the borders. The committee ruled it does not have jurisdiction to inspect if the borders are approved or not, and thus it has to have the maps superimposed on the official state maps. The next hearing will be on the 18th of December. So this is a bureaucracy, an injustice of bureaucracy. Put on your calendars December 18th, continue to pray for the Nasser family. And many of you know and support Dar al-Khalima, Bright Stars of Bethlehem, and Reverend Dr. Mitri Rahab. There was an Israeli raid in Bethlehem, and there were attacks on Dar al-Khalima, the Palestinian university. Israeli soldiers targeted the new glass dome of the university's nearly completed hospitality educational center, firing bullets that destroyed numerous panes of glass, security cameras. It caused panic among students and staff. No physical injuries were reported, but trauma to students and staff was real. The implications of the attack are deeply disconcerting. The restaurant, designed to host educational and training events in the culinary arts, serves as a symbol of cultural resilience and contributes to enhancing the concept and practice of cultural tourism in Palestine. The presence on the top of the hill makes me think of the light on the top of the hill in Bethlehem as a physical manifestation of resilience. This is directly from their communication. The deliberate targeting of such institutions not only endangers the lives of those present, but highlights Israel's deliberate and systematic targeting of all aspects of Palestinian life. These attacks are not isolated incidents, but are a part of the broader pattern of aggression aimed at eradicating Palestinian presence, heritage, and identity. Despite the challenges posed by Israeli occupiers, Dar al-Khalima University remains steadfast in its commitment to advance Palestinian culture and art education. As a testament to that commitment, Mitri reports that construction continued Monday following the attack, and the new panes of glass have already been ordered and will arrive in a few weeks. The inspiring resilience of Mitri, Dar al-Khalima, and the Palestinian people motivates the staff and board at Bright Stars to work even harder to support the mission of Dar al-Khalima. So be in prayer for Dar al-Khalima, for Bright Stars, for the Nasser family and the Tent of Nations. Do not give up hope, but continue to advocate for a comprehensive and permanent ceasefire and for peace. In the name of Christ, amen.